Hello and welcome to the Human Echoes podcast.
I'm Tony Southcott.
I'm Albert Berg, and joining us for the first time on the video podcast, and the first time that Tony's actually interacted with him, is my co-video recording dude, and also previous guest on the podcast on the Mega Shark vs. Mecha Shark review, Brantley Heaton.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Joe.
We also work together.
That's a thing we do.
We move boxes for a living.
Yeah. He's super sad.
Moving boxes on this Cinco de Mayo.
Well, we don't have to do it today. Because we are off.
Because Cinco de Mayo. No,
because it's a Tuesday. We're off on a Tuesday.
Holidays off.
We take every Taco Tuesday.
And yet we don't eat tacos.
We ate tacos a couple weeks ago.
Well, that was the one time.
That was the best tweet I saw today.
What was it?
Today it's Cinco de Mayo, and it's Taco Tuesday. In all caps. This is what we've been preparing for, people.
What does Cinco de Mayo for?
Yeah,
Cinco de Mayo is something for the Mexican Revolution and independence, in which a bunch of farmers kicked the ass of French soldiers.
I don't even think it was like their Independence Day. It's just like a day when they won a big battle. And they're like, yeah. And then like a bunch of like American beer companies found out about it, and they're like, oh my gosh, we can sell Mexican liquor all day long.
It's the holiday where we all find out why we hate Jose Cuervo.
Yeah. I don't think Mexicans even really celebrate it. I'm pretty sure.
It's like the Mexican St. Patrick's Day. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah, that's the thing.
Did they not do that in Ireland?
St. Patrick Land?
From what I've been told, the Irish do not celebrate it that much.
St. Patrick Land, yes. St. Patrick Land.
The land of St. Patty.
The Emerald Isle. The Green Isle of Arran.
It's where all the leprechauns live, right? With Stonehenge?
Hey, listen, there are some places in Europe that still have, like, fairy protection laws.
Yeah.
Which is pretty rad, in my opinion, because you need to be protecting fairies.
That was
actually
not like,
don't dance in the mushroom ring or anything like that. Like, just keep it on the down low.
That's actually one of the movies I saw at the Stanley Film Festival. It was called The Hallow.
Oh, yeah?
It's confused with The Hollow, which is a Vietnamese movie. The Hallow is an Irish movie, and it's basically about people trying to sell and tear down a forest where the Fae people are supposed to live. And it's an awesome creature feature. Like, it's so good.
You were so lucky you got to see all these movies, and we were like, last week I teased, I was like, maybe Tony will, put up some video. There was no video, Tony.
I took some video. It was just terrible. Like, I was trying to
pay for my own collection.
EGO band and everything. Like, I'm so bad at like video in the dark. So bad.
Well, you turn on some lights.
Oh yeah, just turn on the lights on the whole ballroom while this 32-piece marching band is going insane.
Then you end up with a ballroom blitz, sir.
I don't know what that is.
It's already a ballroom blitz.
It's a music reference.
Oh, okay.
To a song called Ballroom Blitz. No idea who sings it.
I'm out of the loop. I don't know about the musics.
I actually know that song more because of Wayne's World than I do from the original song.
That's a fair point.
Is it in Wayne's? What?
Yeah, it's at the beginning of Wayne's World. Like I can't remember the girl's name, but she's singing that. It's like her band, Crucial Whatever. Like they're singing that.
Oh, I remember that scene, but I just assumed that they wrote some dumb bad pop song for the movie.
It's at the end of Wayne's World 1. It's what they're singing when they're on the air and trying to get the producer to come over.
I've heard that song like twice on the radio.
I remember Bohemian Rhapsody. Anybody else remember Bohemian Rhapsody, guys? Yeah.
It's probably my introduction to Bohemian Rhapsody, considering that movie was like 92. That was the last VHS movie I ever watched was Wayne's World.
I was a year old at that point. I am a child over here.
How old were you in 92, Tony?
I was 5.
I was 7.
You're an old man.
I'm old. I'm ancient at this point.
You're hanging with
falling apart.
Hanging out with Aristotle, Uga, and Bunga. That's Aristotle and the 2 cavemen. Yeah,
Aristotle and the 2 cavemen, which is also the name of our cover band of whatever. I don't know. If I knew some music, I would say a name.
We do Ballroom Blitz and Bohemian Rhapsody. That's it, people.
Yeah, still, like, I feel ancient whenever I'm doing my D&D group. This girl that's been, like, hitting on me all weirdly because I'm not the guy that gets hit on. She's fucking 18. Like, literally 18. I'm like, you're not even born in, like, the Clinton administration, or barely.
Man, yeah, she'd have to sit through all that. Like, I remember, like, my dad was a big, like, talk radio listener, and I remember all the, like, discussions about the dress and the impeachment trial, and, like, it was very vivid in my memory.
That was whenever I first started realizing that government was really dishonest, because I remember very clearly yelling at my friend, "He said he didn't do it. The president can't lie to us."
That's sad.
It's like the joke in AVP Requiem when the lady's like, "The government doesn't lie to us," and everybody just stares at her. And they blow up the town.
And then you made a reference to AVP Requiem, which Tony has seen, actually.
It's really dark. It's hard to see what's going on. I don't think anyone who watched that movie has seen what's going on in there.
Tony has heard AVP Requiem.
AVP Requiem.
Alien vs. Predator.
The second one in Colorado?
Yeah. The one that you said you saw because it was in Colorado.
Yeah.
Keep up with us.
Yeah, the second half of the movie, you can't see anything because it's night and there's rain.
Pretty much. And that's when everybody just starts getting got.
Yeah. Wolf Predator was cool. And the scene where the Pred Alien is in the hospital with the pregnant ladies. It's messed up.
Just pumping eggs into the pregnant ladies.
Yeah, it's really messed up. And 4 facehuggers burst out of the bellies.
Ah!
Yeah, it's really messed up.
I need to watch this now.
I might have that. I don't know.
It's definitely the most pulpy out of the entire series. Of
yes, it is.
And Predator.
The second Predator was pretty pulpy.
Yeah, but this is taking that to another level.
It tops it.
Really?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I get the appeal of the first Predator, but I saw the second Predator, and I was like, "What is this?"
It's
this
Danny Glover as a cop in the kind of sort of future of the time.
It's like this weird '80s future thing where
the gangs had just taken over, which is what people thought were going to happen to LA at the time. Now it's just you over there, just dudes in flip flops and just surfer shorts.
And they had
let's go to Trader Joe's, man.
they had some comic relief guy who was just annoying. He wasn't funny, and I was like, "What did they do to Predator?" And people apparently like that movie.
I like Predator.
Not nearly as much as the first one.
No, the first one's a lot better.
Bill Paxton die in that one.
Did he? It's been a while since I saw it, but I recognized it as a legitimate piece of cinema. And Predator 2, I was just like, "This is just bad."
Well, Bill Paxton's the only one that's been killed by the Terminator, the Predator, and the Alien, so that's why I remember that one.
Oh yeah, him.
He's the guy in Nightcrawler.
And by Mormons.
What?
All the greatest monsters of cinema.
When does he get killed by Mormons?
I can't say because it was a huge spoiler.
Oh.
That movie he's in with the Mormons, I would assume.
If I see a movie with Bill Paxton and some Mormons, I'm going to...
Well, he's going down.
That guy.
No show about Mormons. That should probably be blurred out. Or bleeped.
Okay. Is it going clear? No, wait, that was Scientology. I'm incredibly sorry.
Get your clothes straight.
Wow. I'm incredibly sorry to all the Mormons out there for linking you up with Scientology. Please. Oh, man. Speaking of movies, which we do frequently on this show, well, I want to hear you say the name.
It's something about Zaborgo Karate Japanese horror fest thing.
Yeah,
it was terrifying. And
that's a rough translation.
And bad. And so bad. Man, and so weird. And maybe
it was not bad. I take you to
bad,
issue.
But it was good because it was bad.
Yes.
Okay. It was it's not... It doesn't have high quality special effects, but I think it's intentionally bad. I'm
it's
70% sure.
In the first 10 minutes, they have a man nursing a baby. It's intentionally bad.
It's the actual title.
The twin dies because the dad can't suckle the baby enough.
Might have been. We can't say for sure, Tony.
It's true.
We can't say that for sure, but it definitely could have been. And then he turns his dead baby son into a robot.
No, into the field as a robot.
Well, that's what Japan does.
They turn babies into robots?
Yeah, who do you think really makes all those Toyota cars so cheap?
Well, Toyota's made by Japan, Tony.
I know, it's dead souls of babies from Japan.
All right.
That's why I don't buy them.
That's
why I boycott
Never riding
Toyota.
Toyota in it now.
I have a Ford.
Except for that one that's indestructible. I'd ride that truck.
But the actual title of this, Karate-Robo Zaborgar, is a Japanese spoof comedy movie about a guy who's a quote-unquote secret policeman who has a motorcycle that transforms into a karate-fighting robot named Zaborgar, and he fights the evil forces of Miss Borg and Sigma. Yes. For a while, anyway. And then, like, he falls in love with this Borg, and that's a whole... Here's the thing, Tony. Here's why I take issue with you saying this is a bad movie. Because the plot of this movie, like, stripping away all of the, like, weird giant monsters and...
Male suckling.
Yeah, and guys nursing babies and, like, whatever that bizarre cyborg sex scene was, the plot of this movie is actually really good.
It's pretty compelling. It's just presented in the most bizarre setting I've ever seen.
No, I can tell you why. It's because I've seen 17 movies in 4 days. And last night, before I watched this one, I went and saw Avengers Age of Ultron. Just because I was jonesing for it so much. So I've just seen way too many movies to even understand fully what was happening with this. Like, I've lost the thread. Like, I really have.
Okay, well, let me recap it for them then. Like, the basic plot of the movie is he goes up against the Sigma guys. They're trying to create an ultra super weapon or whatever. And it starts out like a very standard, although it's very over the top, like it's their sort of standard Japanese karate robot movie.
Satsu film, yeah.
Yeah. And he goes very, very normally for a while, but then he starts to fall in love with Miss Borg, and you're like, okay, where is this going? And you start to get this really compelling, for me anyway, it was a very compelling story of him trying to decide, because the people he's fighting for are corrupt. They're actually helping the bad guys out. You know, he's on the government side, and it turns out the government's helping Sigma out. And so he's like, why am I helping you in the government when you guys won't give me the tools I need to fight them? Turns out that they're actually the bad guys on the bad guy's side. And he, like, halfway through the movie, basically, you know, loses the fight completely.
He chooses the girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, he decides, you know, he defends his, you know, cyborg love. She gets blown up. You get like a weird title card, and then it's like 25 years later. And you're like, what? And it's like a different actor, and he's old, and he's like still wearing the costume, but it's super sad because now he's working like for the bad guys as a chauffeur because that's the only job he can get, and they're like demeaning him.
The first thing they do to him is fire him after 25 years of service. They just
for stopping for not hitting an old lady.
Yeah, they're like, you didn't hit that old lady? You're fired!
Why did you press the brake so hard? It's dishonorable.
No, I thought it was righteous.
Oh, yeah, righteous.
It's his obsession with the word righteousness.
I thought they said it was dishonorable. I don't know.
They probably, I don't know. Japan.
They definitely told him he shouldn't be wearing blue jeans.
But they're so
Yeah.
But they're so comfortable and easy to move around in.
I mean, he does karate. You can't do those in slacks.
People do those better in some slacks.
Well, they do it in gis, which...
Yeah. I mean, really, he should probably be in athletic shorts or something, but...
I mean, gis aren't comfortable either. They're very stiff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just felt
They're also
like...
made from hemp so that they're antibacterial and such.
I just felt like that the bare bones of the movie was incredibly compelling, and then like what happens later when his kids show back up and he has to fight one of them, and the other one's like and when his daughter is turning into a killer robot but she doesn't want to be, and like, you know, she's like, please, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to kill people, but she can't stop herself because that's in her DNA or whatever. Like, that was all really good stuff in this bizarre framework.
Yeah, where, like, the main character basically gets dick whipped by some dragon that comes out of this woman's mouth, and then, like, sits under her. It's a flurry of tentacles
Tentacle-Boobs?
whipped out of her. Yeah.
His reaction to that is hilarious, by the way.
He's so awesome.
Just screaming at the camera. They're just whipping him in the face.
That was like the height of the craziness of that movie, and this movie has like diarrhea monster.
There was also the weird bit where like Zaborgar is fighting the other robot chick, and like her skirt goes up, and his like eyebrows go up and down because he's into it, and she calls him a pervert. Because Japan.
You guys think that there might be like an Oculus Rift game in Japan that's based on this, where you can just sit there and get whipped with like robot tentacles?
There will be now.
Yeah, they're. I'm sure that's not far off.
Just conjured into existence.
It is very much though. It's like, it's everything that you've ever heard about Japan, like dialed up to 11. Like, it is so aware of all those tropes, and so not ashamed to just like put them out there. It's basically our Austin Powers.
Yeah,
if I had
was
to
actually
like
think that during it, but that if they were to watch Austin Powers after watching a Bond thing, they'd probably think about the same that we did about how weird it was.
Yeah. So, like, it wouldn't... Like, if you're in a different culture, there's a part of me that was like, is this supposed to be funny? And eventually I decided it was. But it's weird how that you have to figure, like, you have to think about it first because it's not your culture. Like, when you watch Austin Powers, you get all the things that it's spoofing. And at least for me, I didn't have the background of all the karate movies, all the robot movies, all the weird, like, Japanese stuff that they're shoving in. Yeah, that's why we have Brantley on here, and I'm talking over him because I'm a narcissist.
Yes.
But that was, like, it sort of takes a while to sink in that, oh, this is intentionally bad and funny and ridiculous.
It was like when we were watching it, you almost asked why she was in the sailor skirt. And then you're like, no, that would have been dumb.
I started to, well, that was like about 3/4 of the way through the movie, too. I'm like, why is she in... Oh, wait.
It's Japan.
Like, we've already seen the bikini football robot bomb ladies.
That was a thing.
Like, I don't know why I would, at this point, question the sailor skirt on the robot girl.
The thing I'm interested in is at the end over the credits when you see clips from the one from the 70s that was essentially a remake of.
It's almost like a shot remake. It was what it looks
more
like.
Bikinis.
Yeah.
those were dudes and not in bikinis in the first one, apparently.
Yeah. Did you watch any of the credits, Tony?
Yes, I watched a little bit of it.
I mean, some of the clips from the old movie. Like, it's pretty cool to see how they did the special effects back then compared to now.
Yeah.
Like Petite Car.
Petite car. The little car. The robot has the little car that comes out of the feet, and it's in two pieces, and it's switched together, and then the helicopter that comes out of the head.
Helicat.
And as far as, like, the sailor outfit, it's not that outlandish for an, like, actual Asian girl. The only Asian girl I ever dated always wore stuff like that. She was South Korean, though.
Well, that's probably why you dated her, Tony.
Oh, yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean...
Her name was Kiki. She was awesome.
Was she Kiki?
You have no idea.
And now it just got weird.
It's been weird the whole podcast talking about a guy getting tentacle whipped by a robot's
see, that's
boobs.
from the movie. Now we brought our own weirdness to it, and that's a whole other level.
No,
She
that's...
probably would have liked that part. That's how Kiki...
She wouldn't have thought it was a comedy. She's like, oh, man. Play that again.
Oh, we're watching a hentai now. Good to know. That was a weird movie.
But I thought that, like, it felt very fresh to me. The fact that there is, like I said, I want to go back to the story. Like, the storytelling was so compelling in how that they presented this crazy outlandish guy with this very real type of conflict. And sort of, like, brought him down into humanity, where, like, in the first half of the movie, he's unbelievable. You know, he's, like, catching bullets with his hands, and which that scene was hilarious.
By the way, you know, they shoot him 3 times and he catches the ball, and it's like, we wanted to test your reflexes. What if he wasn't as good as you thought, bud?
But then, like, he turns into he's an old man at the end of the movie, and, like, he doesn't have the skills anymore, and you're like,
yeah,
oh,
the movie's really
slow-mo
depressing.
diabetes shots.
Oh,
he has diabetes.
hang on, I need my injection. We must pause the fight so I can... There's the weird shot at the beginning when he's, like, leaning on Zaborgar when he's in the bike mode. He's just eating the cream puff and crying. It's so weird. He's the drunk guy at the bar hanging off his bud.
This movie, like, watching this movie really, it actually helped me with a plot detail, or not a plot detail, but, like, I've kind of, one of these days I'm going to finish writing The Death and Life of the Human Electrode, and there's actually some very interesting similarities, and again, the bare bones structure of it, and I realized some stuff that I was missing from the Human Electrode story watching this. That's how this affected, that's how profoundly this affected me, is like, I need to incorporate some of this.
Culture shift.
Well, not even a culture shift. I just wanted, like, incorporate this kind of story. There's not going to be any boob tentacle robots in the Human Electrode story, probably.
Sell that now. People now
That's the
know
twist
that
of the end.
No boob tentacles.
And then they're like, well, I'm not buying that. No boob tentacles. What?
It's probably a special class of things on Amazon. It's like number 106 in boob tentacles.
But yeah, it kind of opened up some stuff where I was like, I think that I can make my story better by incorporating some stuff that was in this story. And so, you know, I thought that it was very instructional to watch. It's incredibly funny if you can get yourself in that zone. So
It's also kind of depressing.
It's also kind of
Like
depressing.
the League of Smiles.
The League of Smiles is...
Hey, at least they go out the right way.
I'm not
On a
even-
wheelchair with a fart.
There's no better way. I was going to say we're not going to spoil it, but you said it, so...
Whatever.
It's not that big of a spoiler, but...
It's not exactly relevant to the
that's-
plot, but I liked it.
That was the part that was over the top for me. Was the wheelchair thing.
You waited until that part to
I
say
could
that
roll
jumped
with the rest.
shark?
I'm just like, this is just insane. And that part, I'm just like, it's a little too much. Like when they're driving up or whatever. The wheelchair thing, too much. I do like the really sad part where he like calls his daughter.
Oh,
And he's like, hey, you should get out of time. She's like, whatever, Dad, don't call me again, and hangs up on him. Dude.
like he's trying to warn you. He's trying to let you know you're going to get killed.
And
By
he's
a
still
giant
forcing
robot
him
lady.
to smile because League of Smiles.
Oh,
And this is the part when they first show up and they all forget to smile for a bit, and they like, in the same instant, go back to smiling
yeah.
because they're reflecting on how sad their lives had become. Like the one dude's in a wheelchair now. Sadness, people.
They're all living in like a 1.5 bedroom apartment.
And they're super
all
stoked to
three
have a
of them.
girl who's 25 years old.
Well, she's a robot, so it's
they,
okay.
they didn't know at the time. He's like, is she cute? It's like, dude, it's my daughter. And then she's growing through some stuff.
Yeah, she, little head pops out. So I if you have any kind of appetite for weird, I recommend people watch this. Because you're not going to see anything else like this ever in your life. This
Unless
is
you live in Japan.
Holy Mountain peanut butter solution level weird,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Top echelon weird. It's got robots. It's got sexy Asian women. It's got helicopters and like bulldog giant fighting buses. It's got everything you need.
And diarrhea robot.
Yeah.
Robot.
Don't forget diarrhea
The
robot.
samurai was cool. And the lips happened.
It's acid diarrhea robot.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. I tried to take a screenshot of him and post it to Twitter, and Twitter like crapped out of me or whatever. But I took a screenshot. I was gonna be like, the Ant-Man movie is not looking good right now, guys.
That would be good.
It didn't. I'm thinking about this now. In the scene where they actually lit the fart and flew into it, didn't they actually say that's whenever they like broke reality? Like
Yeah.
they went over the top.
Like,
they were kind of.
It's time for us to broke reality. And the guy's like, I think we just did.
But yeah, it was definitely a ride. I don't know how much of a ride I liked it, but it's something that I'm going to be thinking on for a while because I'm just going to be sitting at work and I'm going to be like, did that actually happen?
It was memorable.
Yeah.
Well, you just got back from the Stanley Film Festival, Tony. So you've, like you said, you've been saturating yourself in all kinds of movies right now. Give us the highlights now. I know you mentioned the Hollow, but
Yeah,
what
the
else stood out to you?
The reason why I think the Hallow stood out to me was because I watched 2 or 3 like slow burn movies like right in a row like that. It was Goodnight Mommy, which is an Austrian horror movie about these twins who suspect that whenever their mom gets back from plastic surgery that it's not really their mom. Kind of a slow burn, turns incredibly messed up in only the way that Austrians and Germans seem to be able to take it. Like, that movie was pretty intense. Not the best movie, but very intense. The first night, I got to see a movie called Cooties, which is one that we're probably going to end up reviewing. It's a very, very good horror comedy. Elijah Wood's in it, Rainn Wilson, a bunch of other people. Like, that movie was fantastic, just hilarious. And whenever I was watching this this panel from one of the directors, they were talking about how they took it South by Southwest and it didn't test as well. So they ended up getting like an extra whatever amount of money from the studio, and they've reshot the ending, made it bigger and better, and made it awesome. So it's kind of cool seeing like how even through the festival process, like movies will change and adapt and get bigger.
That's really interesting. I never would have thought about that aspect of why movies go to festivals, but like it's cool that they can be like, oh, this didn't work so well. Let's try something different. Basically, like a test screening, but different.
Yeah, it's a much more live test screening. Like instead of just like 8 people in a controlled thing where they have a clipboard and ask them some questions, they're not really movie critics. You could see a much bigger sample in the public's reaction. Then like there was a movie called The Final Girls, which was really good. It's from the guy hasn't directed a ton before. He did Harold and Kumar Christmas, bunch of music videos and things like that before, but it's basically a bunch of people get stuck in an 80s slasher movie, and it's hilarious. It's one of the funnier movies I've seen in years. And that one is another really good one that's coming out. I'm trying to think of the scary ones. The Invitation was a really good cult movie. Not as good as Children of Sorrow, but still like a nice slow burn that built up to a satisfying ending. There's so many. Like I'd have to consult my notes right now because I've just seen so many different things that they're kind of lining up against each other. There was so much happening at that festival that it was insane.
I wanted to bring up about the Final Girls. Me and Brantley, and I texted you about this as well, like, yesterday I showed him the trailer for another movie that's coming out this year called The Final Girl.
No
Yeah.
S.
What?
No S.
Yeah, I said no S. I
saying.
didn't say an S. I said it singular, Brantley.
I'm letting people know.
Just clarifying for the audience.
Okay, fine.
Sir.
Anyway, The Final Girl, no S, is it's a movie with Abigail Breslin, who is apparently grown up now, because, you know, that's what happens. And she's, like, it's about this group of guys who, like, these 4 preppy college guys who lure women out into the woods to hunt them and kill them.
Oh, yeah, I saw a trailer for that. That actually looked pretty good.
And then she's like some kind of spy assassin person, maybe?
Yeah, like
like-
they trained her just to be able to handle this situation.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I'm not sure how it all works, but they take her out there and they're acting like they're about to get frisky and everything. The guy's like, we're like here to hunt you or something like that, and they set her into the woods.
Right, and then like she's just kicking their butts.
It's like a serious version of The Pest.
I don't know what The Pest is, but
It's a John Leguizamo movie from the mid to late 90s.
that movie just looks weird. Like I don't know if I'm excited for it or not, but it looks interesting. The visual side of it is kind of cool.
Yeah.
The lighting and everything was very over stylized and stuff in the trailer. Not over stylized. I'm saying like it's just like you can tell that they're looking for a specific look. But it's just bizarre to me that they have 2 different movies come out in the same year with almost exactly the same title.
Yeah, that lighting style was very much a big thing this year over at the festival. It was everything looked like it had a little bit of David Fincher in it as far as the way the shadows and all that looked.
Well, in The Final Girls, it's like over, like there's some shots where the guys are chasing her through the woods, and they have like basically a spotlight behind them. I mean, you can't see it, but it's like they're illuminated from behind. And you have beams going everywhere, and then in like in the coffee shop, you see her, and she kind of leans into like a super glowy. Like they probably even like did some stuff in post as well to make her look more brighter in the frame.
Some Bloom action.
Do what?
Some Bloom video game style action.
I guess. But it was very, very much like over stylized. Not over like more than it needed to be, but definitely not in a natural style at all. They were going for an aesthetic. Whereas David Fincher, I mean, he has a definite aesthetic, but it's not like that.
Well, I'm saying like I was just confusing that because I saw the trailer once like 2 weeks ago. I was thinking of like the way that everything's dark and kind of subdued and all that. Like you look at the way Gone Girl was shot compared to a lot of other things.
Yeah, I still need to see that, Tony. I have not yet.
But yeah, I got to see a couple Barbara Crampton movies. Like actually, I missed out on We Are Still Here, which was supposed to be one of the best in the festival. I just didn't get there early enough. Like I had to cross town, and they ran out of seats. And Barbara Crampton's the one from Reanimator, and she's been doing a bunch of stuff. She was in Sunchoke, though, and she was in the audience for about 3 different movies. I saw this guy that was in, like, Herbert West from Reanimator cosplay, and, like, he saw Barbara Crampton, like, just went pale, and she came over and took pictures with him and everything. It was awesome.
If he was Herbert West, he should have already been pale, Tony.
Oh, he went pale.
Super white.
Yeah, I saw Stuart Gordon, who directed those movies. The guy that directed The Final Girls, I had a quick conversation with him as I was writing up my review for it. That was kind of interesting. Then whenever I'm sitting in the lounge, like with the rest of the press, I just hear, "Is that Frodo?" And I turn around, and 2 feet behind me is Elijah Wood.
Yeah, name drop the people that you saw, Tony.
I know, it's awesome.
No shame.
It was fun. People
that,
wanted to hear
plebs.
about it. I had a good time. Saw lots of good movies.
Is there a movie that you would like to trash talk, Tony? Was there a bad one that you want to talk about?
I've tried to stay mostly positive about all this. I've got the program in my pocket because I can't even remember the name of this movie. This one is...
You mentioned that Sunchoke was weird, and you couldn't, like, you were trying to process whether it was, like, just, like, bizarre art house or whether it was, like, a mess. That was the text I got from you, which makes me sound like I want to see it, but...
I think that you would enjoy it, and I think that if I watched it again, I might enjoy it. But it's just one of those horror movies that leaves you with like feeling kind of funny afterwards because it's brutal and it's interesting and it's original. But I also got like rubbed a little bit the wrong way by the director. Like he just seemed kind of like overly pompous California guy.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah,
I got that watching the commentary on Nightcrawler. Like I'm Dan Gilroy made a great movie, but. I just didn't want to listen to him talk after about 5 minutes, and I was like, what are you going on about, dude? Like, just talk about the shot. I want to hear about your studio politics BS.
Yeah. And it's also weird whenever you go to these, because I saw 2 world premieres for movies, which I'd never been a part of that before. I saw it for The Invitation as well as The Final Girls, and they had the actresses there. And it was also, I think it was for Sunchoke as well. And it's really weird whenever you're like, I just saw you naked and get murdered on screen like not even 20 minutes ago, and you're up here talking. It's a little bizarre.
Was there like Q&A? Did you get to ask any questions?
I didn't ask any questions personally because I didn't have any on that movie. I just kind of let everybody else ask questions. Like it was a very short, like 5-minute Q&A for that one. For The Invitation, it was a little longer with I want to say her name is Kasama. She's the one who directed Aeon Flux and a few other movies. This was her newest one.
Female director, man, that's a rare bird out in the world of Hollywood.
Yeah, especially in horror. Like she did Jennifer's Body and Aeon Flux, and like The Invitation's probably the best singular movie I've seen from her. I haven't seen Jennifer's Body yet. Aeon Flux was really cool, but I don't know if it was actually a good movie. And she went into her and the guy that wrote Saw had a panel, and they were talking about like what the differences between working with a studio and working indie is. And they went pretty in depth on that, and it sounded like the guy who wrote Saw is never going back to like the major studios after what happened with Dead Silence, which is that weird puppet movie.
Yeah, I've seen that on Netflix a couple times. Was that one of his?
Yeah, like he and James Wan did that one.
I think it's Wan, but okay.
Yeah, I didn't expect him to be Australian. Like I was just sitting there, and then he started talking to the panel.
So what he was unhappy with his experience with Dead Silence?
Yeah, like it was just like they had people that were just there to like ask you every little annoying question about everything. Like just getting followed around, and you have like all this extra time and all these toys, but you're not allowed to do as much with it because you don't have like it's just like being able to have the stuff but not being able to use it. Because of what the studios say, because of what they want, and script changes, and like giant notes on the film and everything. And I'm sure it's not that way with every movie. I'm sure there's a lot where like there's actually constructive notes given and everything. But he sounded like he was just happy writing like Saw 1 through 3 and doing that independently and raising their own funds and doing it that way.
Well, I know that like Joss Whedon even has spoke out about the studio process from working with Avengers 2, and just like how. And I think that they probably gave him as much as they could, but, you know, the studio still exerts a lot of control. It's their movie, technically.
It's a huge gamble of money on their part. I mean, most Marvel movies are still kind of a slam dunk, but commercially, it's a lot of money going into that.
Well, I don't know if it's... I don't know if any movie's a slam dunk, Tony. If they make a bad movie, it may make some money, but, like, that could torpedo their entire franchise if they make one that people hate.
Yeah. I'm a little bit worried about that with the Ant-Man, although the second trailer made it look better.
Yeah, I'm willing to, I'm not pumped up for Ant-Man yet, but after their track record, I'm at least willing to assume that it's not going to suck.
Yeah.
I had some problems with Age of Ultron, personally, although a lot of people really, really liked it.
I thought it was good. It wasn't as good to me as the first Avengers, but there were things I did like about it. And most of the parts I didn't like were just minor things, like minor complaints. There is a really weird, like, hardcore reaction from feminist groups about it right now that I think is unfounded.
Why?
Because they're taking it completely out of context.
Well, I mean, what are they reacting to?
They're saying that the part where Scarlett Johansson's character says, "We're both monsters here," is relating to her saying that she was sterilized by the government. They're saying that because she's not a woman, she's not like a sterile woman, that she looks at herself like a monster because she can't bear children. It's Joss Whedon like putting like the patriarchy up and all this stuff. And it's like, no, you missed the entire thing where she had to shoot a man in the head that was hooded and she didn't know what he did as part of her graduation.
Yeah, also she was an assassin. She was literally a bad guy for the first part of her career.
A brainwashed bad person. And you think that because she had to have that one thing and it was like it was part of a line, it was like an emotional scene, but that's not why she considers herself a monster. So they're going just crazy over it. And a lot of people think that's why Joss Whedon deleted his Twitter, but I don't know.
I read a really great blog post dissecting Age of Ultron, and actually made me like the movie more reading the blog post, but it was talking about how the movie's about legacies and how that like everybody's legacy is shown. So you have, Iron Man, his legacy is, Ultron, but he's trying to... He makes Ultron to stop his legacy of death, and it, backfires on his face. You've got Hawkeye, who... I hope this isn't a major spoiler, but, we see his kids in this, that he has kids, and so, he's got that concern.
He's a family man.
Thor, there's stuff in... Not that he has kids, but it's like, you're bringing this on us. I don't know, maybe he has kids somewhere.
Oh, he's also leaving at the end of it to go take care of things like back in Asgard, because his legacy is Odin's son is basically on the line.
But the interesting thing that they pointed out was that Banner and Scarlet Witch are both childless, and that one of the things that binds them together is that they're not... What?
Black Widow.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Black Widow. One of the things that binds them together thematically is that they don't have... They're not fighting for someone else's future.
Yeah.
They're fighting for, their own, just to make the best world that they can for themselves while they're still here. I thought that was really interesting, that like all of those pieces fit together and all that stuff, and the way that the thing happens with the guy who shows up about halfway through the movie, like everybody in the group is involved with making that happen in one point or another. And so that is a sort of them birthing something.
Well, they even touched on it a little bit with Captain America not having that legacy as well, about how he basically doesn't exist without war.
Right, yeah. So I thought there's a lot of intelligent stuff. My one complaint was that they go on and on and on in this movie, in almost every scene, about avoiding civilian casualties.
Yeah, I saw your tweet about that, and I was like, oh, I kind of understand why, and I didn't think it was going to bother me, but it definitely went a little too deep.
Well, here's the thing. I don't mind that they talked about it, but I wanted to... Like, there was no moments in this when I felt like there were going to be civilian casualties.
Yeah.
And the fact that they didn't... I don't want to spoil anything, but there was some stuff that happened that really made it convenient for them to not have to make any hard choices.
Yeah.
Is what I like. Not, that there was a moment where they're like, we might have to make this choice, and they're just like, no, we're not making that choice, and then the plot just helps them out, like, oh yeah, by the way, I was annoyed by that. Hopefully that's not a spoiler for anybody. I'm trying to speak in incredibly vague terms, but that bugged me because hilarious. I also really like, here's what I want. You have Banner talking about his, fear of being the Hulk. What I really needed from that was to see him wake up next to like a body of somebody that he had killed.
Yeah.
I wanted to see that, not because I don't need to see the guy's arms ripped off or like, his head pounded in by the Hulk. He can just be Marvel dead.
I think it could have been like some straight up village pudding. Just like an entire village of like smashed people.
Enjoy that visual, people.
I mean, well, for one thing, and Brantley's pointed this out to me when we were talking about this. The Hulk does not go out, like, he goes out of his way to not kill people who he's not targeting.
That's why 87% of the time he lives in the desert. It's because the Hulk and Banner want to be left alone.
Yeah, even as the Hulk, even as the monster, he's really not, like, he's enraged and he's breaking stuff, but he's actually not trying to hurt people.
Yeah.
The best example I can think of is from the old TV show. There's a scene with a barn fire, and Banner turns to the Hulk because he's on fire, and he goes out of his way to get a horse out of the fire, and he just pets the horse a couple times, then leaves.
And obviously that's not in canon with
like the
Marvel.
Lou Ferrigno Hulk or the Ang Lee?
The Lou Ferrigno Hulk. That's not in canon, but I mean, I'm sure Joss Whedon knows all this stuff from the comics, and he's not going to write something in that wouldn't fit in. And you can really see that the Hulk, they call him the other guy, and he really is another personality, but not necessarily a bad one, just one that has a lot of anger issues. So that was, it was kind of, I wanted to see more of that. I wanted to see, like, instead of them talking about, I have this, I feel bad because, I'm killing people, like, actually show him seeing someone he's killed. Because they do have to kill people in this movie. The bad guys, they kill the bad guys, but they are dead. And that's a real thing that happens, and people actually have to deal with that on a human level. And I don't need to have a giant downer movie. It doesn't need to be DC. They can still have their quips and stuff, but it needs to have something. For me, it needed to be a little bit more serious in how it presented itself instead of them just talking about how bad they felt. I wanted to see it. Anyway, I don't want to yak on too much about Avengers: Age of Ultron, but that was. If you follow me on Twitter, I kind of talked about that quite a bit right after I saw it. But it was a good movie. There was a lot of Joss Whedon's Whedonisms and the dialogue and a lot of the interactions between the character really saved that movie because it might have been a lot duller without all of that just great stuff that he puts in there.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the dialogue kind of saves all of them. I mean, the first Iron Man would be not great at all without the dialogue.
And that's not Joss Whedon, obviously. But they are definitely, they're firing on all cylinders. And whether or not, he, like, the reason we originally brought this up is because he talked about having issues with Marvel and, them wanting him to put certain scenes in and actually threatening to cut scenes that he really wanted if he didn't put the scenes in, and he's like, this doesn't fit. There's their whole side story with Thor that, like, comes out of nowhere, basically, in the movie, and that was, sort of a studio mandate. Like, we got to set up the next film, Joss. So,
which one is next? Is it Civil War, or is it...
next is Ant-Man.
Oh, I'm saying, like, next in the ones that actually matter.
You haven't seen Ant-Man. How do you know it doesn't matter?
Because I've, like, seen everything, like, all the titles of the other ones, and I bet Ant-Man is nothing more than an inconsequential guy in, like, Infinity War later.
I mean, that may be true, Tony, but I'm not willing to write them off until I've actually watched the movie. I mean, they might be there's stuff in the trailer for Ant-Man that's setting up really interesting things, like where they're talking about giving everybody superpowers.
Yeah, I thought it was going to directly lead to Civil War.
Yeah, and they're like, that's not a good idea. I think that thematically they're leading into that, and if they set up all those ideas, and there's not a lot, there's some sort of tension between Stark and Captain America in this, but there's not a lot that's leading into the idea of Civil War yet from Avengers.
I just couldn't remember if Ragnarok or if Civil War was next for the big ones.
No, Civil War's next.
Civil War, yeah.
I think Ragnarok's after. Is that before Avengers 3?
I think that's Phase 3, so should be before.
Okay. Anyway,
and I think that's before Captain Marvel's movie as well.
Is it Captain Marvel? I thought it was
No, it's Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Captain Marvel, Black Panther.
Yes. African Batman.
Black Panther's going to be awesome, and that's where the main bad guy sounds like it's going to be Ulysses Claw, like who you saw a little bit in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did. Is that why he's called Claw?
Yeah, I'm guessing that's why he ends up being called Claw.
Okay.
That was a funny part. What makes him
Okay.
Andy Serkis?
Spoilers.
We didn't say what happened. We just
We
said
didn't-
I'm just saying.
I didn't. I'm not. I'm just here. I don't know what you're talking about. What movie? Man, Karate-Robo Zaborgar. The bikini ladies throwing the football.
Dino boobs.
Dino boobs. Oh, we forgot to talk about the dino boobs.
Yeah. Dragon.
The two of the dino boobs and the one with the dino butt.
Oh yeah.
Because he wanted to mix her up, I guess. I don't know. He got bored with that one.
It's such a weird movie.
Now their legs just vanish and become rocket packs.
Right?
I mean, it would be really convenient if you're dating a girl that could just spawn rocket packs, but still, that's a little weird.
It would save on gas.
Well, they got to fuel it up with something. You're going to put in jet fuel.
They probably eat. They're cyborgs.
It's like they got to make sure they go to Country Buffet before they fly you
I mean,
anywhere.
they lay eggs. Who knows?
I did remember the name of the movie I was going to say I really didn't like.
Oh, yeah?
It's called Over Your Dead Body. And it's a Japanese movie that I'm sure if I wasn't so tired at the time, I could have enjoyed. But I missed little chunks here and there just by, like, staring off in the distance. So I'd miss, like, a 5-minute piece of dialogue, and I just did not enjoy the movie. And it kept going back and forth between being a play and being a movie. And it was just bizarre.
That sounds weird.
Yeah.
Japan.
How does it make you feel that there's a possibility that some of the movies you saw won't get, like, distribution?
There's only a few that it would really hurt my feelings, but I think, like, they're talking about how most of these are at least going to get VOD and Netflix releases, if nothing else.
But even that takes, like, somebody... I guess, I don't know if you can do that by yourself. Like, if I make a movie, can I just, like, send it to Netflix or upload it to Netflix and be like, take my movie?
You can upload it to, like, VOD services that'll do that, kind of like Louis C.K. style with his comedy, and then you can probably get picked up by Netflix if it gets some sort of buzz around it, like if you start selling a decent amount of copies. But otherwise, it does take a little bit, and there are distributors that'll pick you up afterwards. Like, there's a thing about how many movies are being kickstarted right now that are going to end up on services like that. Tom Quinn, who's the guy that produced It Follows and a whole bunch of hits, like, going back, like, he was the one that brought Let the Right One In to America, a bunch of other stuff. He was there, and he did a panel on how, like, VOD, like, they made $8 million VOD on it wasn't It Follows. It was another movie that they put out recently from Magnet Releasing, and how that's more like a $20 million theater take because the production company gets a much higher percentage.
Oh, interesting.
Like, so, like, even though these VOD numbers aren't as big, they help the studios out by about 30 to 40% more.
Also, you almost, like, is it me or do they never talk about VOD numbers, like, money-wise?
The only time I've heard VOD numbers is when something's killing it and they want to brag about it. Like, whenever Louis C.K. released his comedy special, $5 a pop, and sold 250,000 of them in the first day. Like, that's like, I've heard people talk about it then. I've heard people talk a little bit, like, it wasn't Babadook, it's another, like, a horror movie that did, like, 50,000, like, actual buys, and how that was a pretty good number considering the cost of making the movie. Oh, yeah, Todd Quinn also did Blair Witch Project and stuff like that, so he's...
Oh, wow.
He's got a good eye for those sorts of things.
Really likes that movie.
Like, this Visionary Award. Oh, yeah, the awards at this, they were giant silver-plated axes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about the Blair Witch Project in light of other found footage stuff and how that movie, I don't know if it holds up, but, like, it was able to do something that most other found footage movies aren't because there's nothing in it that you can't believe happened.
Yeah.
Have we talked about this on the podcast last week?
Well, we didn't talk about Blair Witch for a while.
Okay.
Or even found footage for a few episodes.
But, like, a lot of found footage, you know, and that's fine to a degree. You know, you get things like Cloverfield and stuff, and you're like, well, that obviously is not real.
Yeah.
But
really?
very...
You didn't hear about the monster that took out the Statue of Liberty? It was all over the news.
But very few of these movies are willing to take that really sort of minimalist approach and do something that is not unbelievable.
Well, it was really cool listening to the commentary and talk about how they did everything. It's because they literally just sent the kids out in the woods with the GPS thing, and they would just send them markers of where to go. And then they would just, like, sit there and they do everything they could to not make noise, so they didn't think the kids were something they should react to. But every time they had to actually, they just scream, like, enchilada or something was their code word. So just scream enchiladas, like, stop filming, we're going to set something up real quick.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's a movie that I need to revisit because I remember being so disappointed in that movie because it just wasn't scary to me.
Well, it's been hyped up a lot, too. It's one of those movies that you've heard about.
The media storm they did for it was amazing because they had, like...
It was the first time I ever remember seeing those night vision cameras in a theater, like, showing people's reactions in the trailer. Like one of those where it's just building up like that.
My brother and I made the genius decision to go camping once and watch it while we were in the woods. Did not get any sleep. Because every little squirrel just out there was like, it's her. Just out there. She's going to eat us.
Being in the woods is terrifying.
Yeah.
We're like 13 or something like that. Bad idea.
Yeah, it's easy to forget how comfortable and this is one of the things that I'm writing about for my write-up for the Stanley Film Festival, is that horror is kind of like the reminder that society is more like it's a facade of safety, and really the world is mostly chaos and insanity and brutality, like outside the walls of our civilization. And like the fact that we go through life where we don't even think about being afraid, we don't think about doing anything, we're sitting here comfortable, always warm, always out of the cold, always like dealing with our reality in a certain way, that like horror is the thing that brings it back to our primal nature. And a lot of people say that it's base, a lot of people say that it's not original, it's not good. And I like, especially after seeing a festival like this, I think that horror might have the largest set of original ideas happening, because it can take chances, because it's smaller budgets, because it's independent of what normal people are looking for. And I think that it's created this genre where if you dig deep, you're going to find some really interesting and really cool things. And even if it is mostly about survival, like that's still something that's like that we need to remember is a big part of our existence for the last few million years. And just because we don't think about it now doesn't mean it's not pertinent.
Well, and two, like, that's not only true of horror. I mean, there is a whole indie film scene that is doing the experimental stuff, that's going in different directions. And it's understandable why they don't, Avengers Age of Ultron is not going to, like, go in some weird experimental direction because they want to make, $1 billion or $2 billion. Yeah. But, I mean, those movies are out there, and you're probably not seeing them because you're not going to these film festivals. I'm not saying you, Tony, but I'm saying the general viewer has to see. Yeah, you guys.
That's part of the reason why we focus on a lot of these movies, is because we're looking for something original and different and awesome and want to spread the word about it.
Right. And speaking of, next week we're going to be talking about Bring Me the Head of the Machine Gun Woman, which I've seen about half of. He has not seen any of it. It's a good movie, though.
Yeah, I saw the cover for it. I'm excited.
And it's it's the kind of movie that I could almost think, like, I could probably make this. If I get some actors and stuff, I could probably make this movie. Because it's mostly low budget, but it's got a great story behind it, and it's doing some interesting stuff, and, like, kind of invoking video game tropes and things, but not over the top. It's, we'll talk about it more next week, but, you have a lot of movies out there, and a lot of, people trying to put their vision on screen, and they're just by the sheer volume and the ease of filmmaking now, it seems like you're going to get more and more interesting and original visions.
Yeah, especially because you could also find different strategies and learn more. Like back 30 years ago, you couldn't do near as much research on how to get a shot frame perfectly, or how different aspects of filmmaking work. Now everybody can get a film school level education in the mechanics of filmmaking.
Man, you're making me sad now, because I'm listening to the audiobook that was free yesterday. Or not free, I'm sorry, but it was on sale yesterday. How Star Wars Conquered the Universe.
Yeah.
And it's not a George Lucas biography, but there are many, many biographical elements in it. And one of the things that depresses me a little bit is just thinking about, I'm never going to be able to operate on this level because I don't have access to the resources that he had access to. It turns out, poor people don't change the world that often. Turns out you got to have at least a little bit of money.
Yeah, but there's also things that are changing with that too, and you could be one of the people that pulls themselves up and becomes the upper middle class, the high-end director, whatever. There's a lot of time left to do this, and you're a much better writer than most of the people writing screenplays right now.
Well, I don't know about that, Tony.
I've read your books.
Okay.
I read your stories.
My books are weird.
Don't you dare sell yourself short, sir. You won't get a sword.
I did finish a story today for our next Writers Arena, which, man, that was I think writing stories is like pooping, Tony. I don't know if anybody else feels like that, but sometimes you get the diarrhea story. It's just flows right out, just a stall out there. And then sometimes
eating enough salad and everything, high fiber.
Yeah, and then sometimes you get the constipation story where you're just sitting there for an hour and you get like...
Yeah, that's horrifying comparison would be like traffic.
No.
Sometimes it's all going smoothly, sometimes you're a red light.
I'm just saying, like,
we're going poop.
but pooping involves, like, the strain, right? You're, like, trying, oh, I know I can get this out. Oh, the words, they will come out of my hands onto the screen. Or
See, Al's just trying to be the everyman. Not every person gets to drive. Check your privilege, Brantley.
everybody poops. This is an analogy that all of you can relate to. Anyway, but it's like that. It's for real like that. Where you're saying, like, the first 3 days I wrote this story, I wrote 2 sentences every day. What are you saying?
I'm apologizing to the people.
Anyway, I wrote like 2 sentences every day, and like then like I finally got like a couple 3 paragraphs out, and then it was a little bit better. And then today I was able to drive over to Books A Million and sit on their outside smoking pavilion place, and I just like finished the last half of the story. Finally figured out where it was going, and it was like, yeah, it just sometimes you gotta like grind through and get it out however you can get it out.
I don't know if you know this, but your competitor dropped out, so we had to find a substitute.
Well, obviously he had not had enough fiber, Tony.
He died of an impacted colon.
I was taking a drink there, Tony. Why would you do that? That's so wrong. My analogy was not that distasteful. Okay, yeah, it was.
I was just finishing it. You see what Bradley was talking about? How it's a lot easier to view it as traffic?
So who am I going up against now?
You were actually going up against Ian Williams, who is the one who designed the Writers Arena logo.
Oh, really?
Friend of Hannah and Caleb's.
Awesome. Ian, you're going to get killed.
Pretty much.
Like, your poop better be awesome, because my poop is, like, prime. I've got some prime poop in this computer right here.
It wasn't no log over a waterfall fall style.
We are so far off the rails, Tony.
I wasn't told about this, people. I was not.
I didn't know.
I was told robots from Japan.
You think that Al and I were texting earlier, and we're going to be like, man,
oh, there was a conspiracy.
Drive this poop analogy home so hard. We're going to be working on this like it's going to be memorable. It's going to be a YouTube clip. We don't plan this. You think you can get this far off the rails by planning?
Yes.
This just happens.
Have you seen a Shyamalan movie?
He's coming back now.
Yay.
That Grandparents movie looks... was it called The Visit? You seen the trailer for that, Tony?
I think I did, but I'm not in a mental state right now to remember.
It's like we did talk about this last week, where it's like Shyamalan, Blumhouse, and found footage. Like, the holy trinity of things that could probably go wrong, but you really hope go right.
That was an interesting discussion I heard from one of the panels was, would Michael Bay be able to make a Blumhouse movie?
Oh, definitely. I don't think... Michael Bay, he's already done independent... Like, his... I know Transformers was a big one, but Pain and Gain was an independent film.
Yeah, and Pain and Gain was still, like, 3 major movie stars and a lot of money.
I think Michael Bay would really benefit from doing a Blumhouse film. What did they say in the panel?
The panel was just like, he was saying that he just wasn't sure he'd be able to, because whenever you meet Michael Bay, he pulls up in a Ferrari, and like it almost, you expect explosions to come out of trash cans because he's so over the top. It's just who he is. And it's not disparaging him as a person or director, it's just what he does.
But there's a place for that, Tony. Like, that's a style, and he could definitely...
I'm just saying, could he bring it down to like a $500,000 budget and still make something incredible? I think he probably could, but it would be interesting to see him actually try to Tarantino it a little bit. I
mean, look, I've seen those Blumhouse movies, Tony, and they look fine. I mean, we watched You're Next. That was a fine movie.
Yeah.
It was made for $1 million, and, I mean, nothing blew up or anything in it, spoilers, but
I'm sure they could have afforded an explosion if it called for it.
But what I'm saying is,
out of that house,
nothing blows up in Pain and Gain either. You know, he makes, like, that's a character-driven story.
Yeah.
And I think that, I definitely think he can handle that. He can get the atmosphere right. He's a master of cinematography. I mean, whether or not, like, he just gets the most beautiful shots you can imagine.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't make any sense in the movie, but, like, they look great.
I sent you that epic rap battles of history with Spielberg versus Hitchcock, right?
I did. Yes, I think I saw that one. And they've got, like, Michael Bay pops in and, like, it goes off the rails. Speaking of things that go off the rails.
It just, like, ends up being, like, 5 different directors, and every one of them drops something about Michael Bay, and then he shows up at the end flying in on a helicopter. Yeah, it's awesome.
Speaking of rap, me and Brantley started playing a game today that has the weirdest soundtrack. It's called C. Kane, and it's a black and white RPG very loosely based on Citizen Kane. And they, like, sing the things that are happening. So, like, you get out into the world map, and it's like, it's the world map. It tells you where you're at. It's the world map.
Tells you where you want to go.
Tells you where you want to go.
And it starts describing things on the map, like there's a volcano to the west.
It was great.
I couldn't handle that.
What do you mean you couldn't handle it?
I couldn't even play that. It's like musicals, man.
Well, we are about at time, Tony.
All right. Well,
you want to wrap
this up?
Thank you guys
for tuning in. Thank you, Brantley, for showing up. It's good to actually talk with you instead of, like, seeing your sparse tweets every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, if you guys go to humanechoes.com, you'll find a lot of cool stuff there. You'll find all the podcasts we've ever done. You'll find a bunch of videos. You can find links to the YouTube. You can find links to our discussions. There's a lot of cool stuff going on there. There's also a very awesome donation link, which many of you have subscribed to. We thank you very much for that. We also have just a donation button right above that. If you feel that this show is worth $1, $5, $10 a month, or if you just want to put a one-time donation, helps us go see movies, helps me do stuff like the Family Film Fest.
Family Film Fest?
The Stanley Film Fest, excuse me. And it's just the way that we keep this whole thing rolling. If you can't support us financially, we would love it if you dropped a review, if you sent a tweet, if you liked us on Facebook, things like that. Just spread the word. It really, really helps us out.
And we will see you next week talking about Bring Me the Head of the Machine Gun Woman, which is on Netflix, as was this movie. You can check that out, and we'll be talking about that next Friday.
Yep, and if you watch this movie, it will taint would you like to watch this or your recommendation list for quite a while. Anyway,
yeah.
You guys have an awesome one. We will see you next week.
Bye, guys.